So welcome everyone to the book. We're beginning the book of Deuteronomy, which is in our sages call it Mishneh Torah, or the second Torah, and but actually it is the first four books were Moses was writing down exactly what God told him. But here, he's like a father who knows he's leaving. He won't be with the children of Israel going into the promised land. He has to pass the baton down to Joshua, but he wants to get across to this next generation and to all the way down to our generation, that we shouldn't do the things that that first generation did, which was because they had said, they stood at Mount Sinai. In here you'll see it'll say Horeb, which is the same thing as Mount Sinai. They stood at the base of Mount Sinai and they said, we will do and we will obey. And they didn't. They kept disobeying, and it speaks to us today. And these words are really, we should take them to heart because they're coming from the heart of a man, Moses, Moshe Rabbeinu, who was the humblest man who ever lived, even though he spoke face to face with our Creator. I can't even imagine that happening. Now, let me share the screen so that we can read it. As I said, there's nothing like reading it, and we're not looking to interpret it in the way that scholars were. We're looking at what is this saying for us today. And the first thing that I noticed in the very first verses here, it says, Ele ha-devarim, these are the words, asher daber Moshe el kol Israel, which Moses spoke to the whole, to all of Israel. It says, ve'ever ha-yarden. Ever is on the other side. Here they translate it as beyond, but that's where we get the word ivri, ivrit, Hebrew. We're called ivrit because we're on the other side. It started with Abram, who went on the other side, and here we're on the other side of the Jordan, in the wilderness, in the Arava, which is the desert. That's where they get Arabia, from Arava. Over against Suf, between Paran and Tofel, and Laban, Haserot, and Di Zahav. It was an 11-day journey from Horeb, which is Mount Sinai, to Kadesh Barnea by way of Mount Seir. There were two mounts, Mount Ebal and I think the Mount Seir. One was cursed and one was blessed. It came to pass in the 40th year, in the 11th month, on the first day of the month. So we know that they're at the end of the 40th year, that Moses spoke to the children of Israel according to all that the Lord had given him in commandment to them. He had killed off Sihon, the king of the Amorites, who dwelt in Heshbon. He had killed off Og, the king of Bashan, who dwelt in Ashtaroth, at Edrei, beyond the Jordan, Be'ivre, Ever, Hayarden, in the land of Moab. Remember, Moab was one of the two children that the daughters of Lot had when they slept with their father, Lot, because they thought it was the end of the world. It took Moses upon him to expound this Torah. They say law, but law is a terrible word to translate Torah, because Torah is instruction. It's not about being legalistic or law. The Lord our God, here's Moses saying, the Lord our God spoke to us in Sinai, in Horeb, saying, you have dwelt long enough in this mountain. Turn, take your journey, go to the hill country of the Amorites, to all the places near there, in the desert, in the Arabia, in the hill country, in the lowlands, in the south, by the sea, in the land of Canaan and Lebanon, as far as the river Euphrates. Now this is he's telling us again where we're going to have our borders. I have set the land before you. Go in, Possess the land which the Lord swore to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give to them and to their seed after them. So here we see God is giving us this land. But it wasn't easy. He was going to give it to us, but we would have to fight for it. It's very similar to Adam, who had, when the land was cursed, he had to till, so he had to work to make the garden grow. At the beginning, everything was given, but after the curse, after they disobeyed, they had to work for it. I spoke to you at that time, saying, this is Moses speaking, I cannot bear you myself. The Lord your God has multiplied you, and behold, you are this day as the stars of heaven for multitude. The Lord, the God of your fathers, may he make you 1,000 times more than you are, and bless you as he has promised you. How can I myself bear this burden, your cumbrance, and your strife? Because they were always kvetching, always complaining. And we're still doing it. We're very good at it. We've had 4,000 years of practice of kvetching.
Right.
Get you from each one of your tribes wise men with understanding, filled with knowledge, and I will make them heads over you. So these were going to be like the ones that we would go to ask for guidance. And you answered me and said, the thing which you have spoken is good for us to do. So I took the heads of your tribes, wise men, chachamim, full of knowledge. To hear the word knowledge, yadim, means the knowledge of God, an intimate relationship with the God of Israel. And make them heads over you, because it's the only way they'll have any common sense or any wisdom, because otherwise everything is confusion. There'll be captains of thousands, those who will take care of thousands. There will be those who are leaders of hundreds, those who are leaders of 50, those who are captains of 10, officers and by tribes. And I charged your judges, shoftim, at that time, saying, hear the causes between your brothers, and judge righteously between a man and his brother, and the stranger, the ger, the one who's not born in Israel, who is with us. You shall not respect persons in judgment. You shall hear the small and the great alike. You shall not be afraid of the face of any man, for the judgment is God's. And the cause that is too hard for you, you shall bring to me, and I will hear it. Because Moses went to God directly. When things were too hard, he would go to God and ask how to resolve an issue that was too great. And you don't see this kind of justice in the courtrooms today, because people who are poor cannot afford a good lawyer, could linger in jail, and there's nothing they can do, while those with money can buy their way out. And this is not what our God wants from us. And I commanded you at that time. I told you all the things that you should do. And then we journeyed from Mount Sinai, and we went through the great and dreadful wilderness which you saw, by the way of the hill country of the Amorites, as the Lord commanded us. And we came to Kadesh Barnea. And I said to you, you have come to the hill country of the Amorites, which the Lord your God gives to us. Behold, the Lord your God set the land before you. Go, take possession, as the Lord, the God of your fathers, has spoken to you. Do not be afraid, neither be dismayed. That's when you came near me. This is Moses speaking. You came to me, every one of you, because they didn't trust him. And we say, you know what? Before we go in, let's send some men in and let them look at the land. Let them come back with word by of the way, which may tell us how we should go up, what the cities were like, what the land was like. And Moses said, it sounded good. So I took 12 men, one from every tribe, and they went up into the mountains, and they came to the valley of Shkol, where they brought the grapes, and they reconnoitered the land. And they took the fruit of the land in their hands, and they brought it down to us, and they brought us word, and they said, The land is good, which the Lord our God gives us. Yet you would not go up, but rebelled against the commandment of the Lord your God. You know, we tend to idolize the people or idealize these people, but they kept rebelling over and over, and you kvetched in your tents. And you said, because the Lord hated us, he brought us forth out of the land of Egypt to deliver us into the hand of the Amorites to destroy us. Where are we going? Our brothers have made our heart melt. The people are greater and taller than we are. The cities are great and fortified up to heaven. Moreover, we have seen the sons of Anakim. There were giants. Then I said to you, don't be afraid. They won't hurt you. Dread not. Don't be afraid of them. How often do we allow fear to stop us from doing something because we don't trust that our God is with us? The Lord your God goes before you. He shall fight for you according to all that he did for you in Egypt before your very eyes, and in the wilderness where you have seen how the Lord your God, how he carried you as a man carries his son in all the way that you went and until you came to this place. Yet in this thing you do not believe the Lord your God, who went before you in the way to seek out a place to pitch your tents in. He was fire by night to show you the way to go. He was a cloud by day to show us the way to go. And the Lord heard the voice of your words, and he was angry. And he swore, saying, surely there shall not one of these men, this evil generation, they shall not see the good land which I swore to give to your fathers, except, and he mentions first Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, who was a Kenizzite. He was not an Israelite. He was a native. He was a man from Kenaz, not a Jew. He was a Gentile. He shall see it. To him I will give the land that he has trodden upon, and to his children, because he has completely followed the Lord. Also the Lord was angry with me because of you. Thou also shalt not go in hither. He was upset because, remember, he struck the rock twice instead of speaking to it. And so Moses is blaming them. And the second one who entered the land of that entire generation after 40 years in the desert was Joshua. Joshua was there with Moses from the beginning. When he would go into the tent, Joshua went into the tent. And sometimes he would stay there. He spoke also. He heard God speaking to Moses. He's the one who stands before you. He will go in. You need to encourage him, for he shall cause Israel to inherit the land. He's going to be the one to conquer it. Moreover, your little ones, that you said should be a prey, and your children, that this day have no knowledge of good and evil. Those are the little ones, the second generation. They shall go in. And to them I will give it, and they shall possess it. But as for you, turn, take your journey into the wilderness by the way of Yamsuf, the Sea of Reeds. Then you answered and said to me, we have sinned against the Lord. We will go up and fight according to all that the Lord our God commanded. And you girded on every man his weapons of war, and deemed it a light thing to go up into the hill country. But the Lord said to me, this is Moses speaking, tell them, don't go up, don't fight, for I am not with you. I am not among you, and you'll be your enemies will destroy you. So I spoke to you, but you didn't listen. Instead, you rebelled against the commandment of the Lord, and you were presumptuous, and you went into the hill country. And the Amorites who dwelled in that hill country came against you and chased you like bees do, and beat you down into Seir, even into Hormah. And you returned and wept before the Lord. But the Lord did not listen to your voice, nor did he give ear to you. So you abode in Kadesh many days, according to the days that he abode there. Chapter 2. Go ahead. Do you want to read, Jerry?
Does Mary want to read?
No, I
my
just wanted
short-
to say it's amazing how we think, certain things that are the right things to do, but not something that God wants us to do. It's the wrong time, but we take it upon ourselves. Like when they wanted to fight, that's not the time. Whether that wasn't, they were just. It's almost like that kind of self-righteousness.
Exactly.
We want to fight them now.
By the way, if anything that I read strikes you, gives you a thought, something that you could relate to, that you could think of something that we're going through today, interrupt me. Because that's what this is all about. Because the Torah is not only for the sages, for the rabbis, for these scholars. The word, there's a verse in chapter, I just want to read it to you. Here, you'll see at the end of Deuteronomy. In chapter, hold on a second. I'll tell you, Deuteronomy 30:14. Look what it says here. This is toward the end of this book. If you listen to the voice of the Lord to keep his commandments and his statutes, which are in this book of the Torah, if you turn unto the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul, for this commandment which I command you is not hard for you, neither is it far off. It's not in heaven, that you should say, who shall go up to heaven and bring it down to us, or make us hear it, that we may do it? Neither is it beyond the sea, that you should say, who shall go over the sea for us and bring it to us and make us hear, that we may do it? The word is very near to you, in your mouth, in your heart, so that you may do it. See, I have set before you this day life and good, and death and evil, in that I command you this day to love the Lord your God, to walk in his ways, to keep his commandments and his statutes and his ordinance, which is all the 10 commandments. The first 3 are the commandments, the second are the statutes, the second 2, and the last 5 are the ordinances. Then you shall live and multiply, and the Lord will bless you in the land where you're going to possess it, which is where we are at the very beginning now. But if you turn away, and you will not hear, and you'll be drawn away and worship other gods and serve them, I call upon heaven and earth against you this day, that I have set before you life and death, blessing and curse, so choose life. And then we'll get back to that. I don't want to go any further ahead, but you can see he's saying it's not too far from us. It's right here. It's very easy for us to understand. Okay, go ahead, Jer.
Maybe I'll read a half the chapter. Mary.
Okay, and I think Iris likes to read too.
Okay. Let Iris read now. Then go ahead, Iris.
Read. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead. Read.
Go, Jerry. Read.
Then we turned and took our journey into the wilderness by the way to the Red Sea, as the Lord spoke unto me. And we compassed Mount Shear many days. And the Lord spoke unto me, saying, Ye have compassed this mountain long enough. Turn you northward.
In other words, we went around and around and around the mountain. How many times do you feel you're going to go round and round in your life and you still end up in the same place?
Round and round the mountain. Da, da, da.
Exactly.
And commanded thou the Lord, saying,
The
Ye are
people.
to pass.
The people saying.
That's what I didn't say. You're right. And commanded thou the people, saying, Ye are to pass through the border of your brethren, the children of Esau.
That's Esau.
Well,
You know who Esau is? Who remembers who Esau is? Jerry, do you remember?
Sort of.
Iris, do you remember?
No.
Isaac had twins. Isaac and Rebekah had twins. Jacob and Esau. Here, he's saying you're going to pass through the border of your brothers, the children of Esau. Jacob and Esau were twins. Jacob became the father of Israelites. Esau became a Gentile, the father of the Edomites. Same parents, same mother, same father. That shows that
Tells you that Judaism isn't a race.
Judaism is not a race. Judaism is a calling. God chooses us. He chose us for a reason. Okay, go ahead.
I see you. I see you. Just a minute. Okay, what?
Esau,
You,
that dwell in
you're
Seir. Here,
and command for
here, and they shall be afraid. They shall be afraid of you.
take ye good heed unto yourselves, therefore. Contend not with them, for I will not give you of their land. No, not so much as the sole of the foot to tread upon, because I have given Mount Seir unto Esau for a possession. Ye shall purchase food of them for money, that ye may eat, and ye shall also buy water of them for money, that ye may drink. For the Lord thy God hath blessed thee in the work of thy hand. He hath known thy walking through this great wilderness. These 40 years the Lord thy God hath been with thee. Thou hast lacked nothing.
Now, this is really important. We have to remember that he blessed us in everything that we did with our hands. He knew when we were walking through the wilderness, we lacked nothing. Today, if you're honest with yourselves, do you really lack anything in your lives? We have so much, and yet we spend so much time complaining. And that's the thing that God does not want from us. He wants us to be joyful and to be thankful for the things that we have and to thank Him. So we passed by.
Buy from our brethren, the children of Esau, that dwell in Seir, from the way of the Arabah, from Elath, and from Ezia Geber. And we turned and passed by the way of the wilderness of Moab. And the Lord said unto me, be not at enmity with Moab, neither contend with them in battle, for I will not give thee of his land for a possession, because I have given Ar unto the children of Lot for a possession.
So again, it's a relative. Just the way Esau is a cousin, is actually a brother. He's a twin of Jacob. Here, Lot is a nephew of Abraham. So that land is not going to belong to, we were not to take it then, but it'll be part of what we take. And that area is around Jordan.
The Enem dwelt therein aforetime, a people great and many and tall as the Anakim. These also are accounted Rephaim as the Anakim, but the Moabites called them Emin. And in Seir dwelt the Horites aforetime, but the children of Esau succeeded them, and they destroyed them from before them, and dwelt in their stead, as Israel did unto the land of his possession, which the Lord gave unto them.
You see,
now rise up.
Just hold a second. You see, Esau took the land that used to belong to the Horim, and they destroyed them, and they dwelt in the land instead. Everybody's upset that Israel took over this land, and yet God gave it to us in the same way He allowed Esau to take over from the people before them. It's very natural for this generation. You'll always see that, people taking over somebody else's land. It's, I guess, a natural progress of humanity.
Now rise up and get you over the brook Sered. And we went over the brook Zered. And the days in which we came from Kadesh Barnea until we were come over the brook Zered were 38 years, until all the generation, even the men of war, were consumed from the midst of the camp, as the Lord swore unto them. Moreover, the hand of the Lord was against them, to discomfort them from the midst of the camp until they were consumed. So it came to pass, when all the men of war were consumed and dead from among the people, that the Lord spoke unto me, saying, Thou art this day to pass over the border of Moab, even Ar. And when thou comest nigh over against the children of Ammon, harass them not, nor contend with them, for I will not give thee of the land of the children of Ammon for a possession, because I have given it unto the children of Lot.
So one of the children, one of the two daughters, one had Ammon and one had Moab. Those are our relatives, right down to today. Iris, would you like to read? Iris?
No, no,
No?
I
Okay.
can't pronounce these towns.
Okay. Okay.
And I'll finish this chapter, Peggy.
No problem.
That also is accounted a land of Rephaim. Rephaim dwelt therein aforetime, but the Ammonites called them Zamzumbim, a people great and many and tall as the Anakim. But the Lord destroyed them before them, and they succeeded them and dwelt in their stead, as he did for the children of Esau that dwelt in Shear, when he destroyed the Horites from before them. And they succeeded them and dwelt in their stead even unto this day. And the Avim that dwelt in the villages as far as Gaza, the Captorim that came forth out of Captor, destroyed them and dwelt in their stead. Rise ye up, take your journey, and pass over the valley of Arnon. Behold, I have given into the land, into the hand Sihon the Amorite, king of Heshbon, and his land. Begin to possess it and contend with him in battle. This day will I begin to put the dread of thee and the fear of thee upon the peoples that are under the whole heaven, who, when they hear the report of thee, shall tremble and be in anguish because of thee. And I send messengers out of the wilderness of Kedamoth unto Sihon, king of Heshbon, with words of peace, saying, Let me pass through thy land. I will go along by the highway. I will neither turn unto the right hand nor to the left. Thou shalt sell me food for money, that I may eat, and give me water for money, that I may drink. Only let me pass through on my feet, like the children of Esau that dwelt in Shear, and the Moabites that dwelt Ar did unto me, until I shall pass over the Jordan into the land which the Lord our God giveth us. But Sihon, king of Heshbon, would not let us pass by him, for the Lord thy God hardened his spirit and made his heart obstinate, that he might deliver him into thy hand, as appeareth this day.
Can you think of someone
The
else?
Lord,
Just hold on, Jared. Can you think of someone else in the Torah who God, it says where God hardened his heart?
Ramses.
Exactly. You know who that is, Iris?
No,
That was the Pharaoh. When we go through Pesach, and God sent the 10 plagues, at the beginning, the first 3, his magicians were able to copy the first 3. Every one of the plagues of Egypt was an assault upon one of the gods of the Egyptians. The Nile was like a god. And then the frog, so he turned it to blood, and then the frogs came out. And after the frogs died, you had the flies. And his his magicians were able to do exactly the same tricks, they called it. They didn't see it as a miracle. And so Pharaoh hardened his own heart. He was so proud because he considered himself a god. So that he was like a god who was fighting against the God of Israel. And we see that even today, how many gods, how many people think that they're like God incarnate on this earth. You see that in North Korea. You'll see a lot of these leaders consider themselves to be gods. And then eventually it says, God hardened his heart. Here, he made his heart obstinate so that he might deliver him into the hand of Moses. There's always a reason for that.
So it's not really that God hardened, his heart was already hard.
Yes,
So, but if you just read it like this, it looks like God hardened his heart. So if we don't have free will, God has to do something. But his heart was hardened already. And he
exactly.
allowed him to continue in that way, But also
Exactly.
with countries, like before you were saying about, it seems like in the world, countries, one group takes over and this one takes over. But even God is in that. He didn't want, he wanted the land, like that. Lot's descendants were to have certain land, just like the chosen people. They have the land that God gave them, but there are times when it's not from God, but we don't always know. Like, just even look at World War II. Was it, when the Nazis just went sweeping over, especially Western Europe? That's not from God. So it's not just that land. It's in the world, lands just conquer other lands. God has his hand in this too.
When you say it's not from God, it's not God's will to do that, but he allows it to happen because of the disobedient of the hearts of the people who are there.
Yeah, but I mean, here in the formation of the land, he didn't. You see a few times already where God didn't allow. He told Israel not to go there in certain places.
Exactly, because that land wasn't meant for them. Exactly. Okay, Jer, you want me to continue or you want to finish the chapter?
How many chapters are there?
There's just one more after this. I'll do the last one.
Okay, I'll continue here a little bit if it's not the. And the Lord said unto me, Behold, I have begun to deliver up Sion and his land before thee. Begin to possess his land. Then Sion came out against us, he and all his people, unto battle at Jahaz. And the Lord our God delivered him up before us, and we smote him and his sons and all his people. And we took all his cities at that time and utterly destroyed every city, the men and the women and the little ones. We left none remaining. Only the cattle we took for a prey unto ourselves, with the spoils of the city which we had taken. From Aroer, which is on the edge of the valley of Arnon, and from the city that is in the valley, even unto Gilead, there was not a city too high for us. The Lord our God delivered up all before us. Only to the land of the children of Ammon thou camest not near. All the side of the river Jabbok, and the cities of the hill country, and wheresoever the Lord our God forbade us.
And then we turned, and we went up the way to Bashan. And Og, the king of Bashan, came out against us, he and all his people, unto battle at Edrei. And the Lord said to me, Don't fear him, for I have delivered him, and all his people, and his land into your hand. And you shall do to him that same thing you did to Sihon, king of the Amorites, who dwelt in Heshbon. So the Lord our God delivered into our hand Og, also the king of Bashan, and all his people, and we smote him until none were left remaining. We took all his cities at that time. There was not a city that we didn't take from them. 60 cities, all regions of Argob in the kingdom of Og in Bashan. These were fortified cities. They had high walls, they had gates and bars. Beside the unwalled towns, a great many, and we utterly destroyed them, as we did to Sihon, king of Heshbon, utterly destroying every city, the men, the women, and the little ones. But all the cattle, the spoil of the cities, we took for booty for ourselves. And we took the land at that time out of the hand of the 2 kings of the Amorites that were beyond the Jordan, from the valley of Arnon to the Mount Hermon, which Hermon the Sidonians called Sirion, and the Amorites call it Senir. We may wonder, why does he go into this kind of detail? Because the people then would have understood. It's like if you sat down with your kids and you started to talk to them about the journey in your life, and you started mentioning the different places that you may have lived, the addresses, the things that you've done, teaching your kids, wanting them to learn from the things that had happened in your life. For only Og, king of Bashan, remained of the remnant of the Rephaim. Behold, his bed was a bed of iron. Is it not in Rabbah of the city of the children of Ammon? 9 cubits was his length, and 4 cubits the breadth after the cubit of a man. In other words, it was huge, showing us that it didn't matter the size of the enemy. If God said we were going to win, he was going to give us the strength to do it. And this land we took in possession at that time from Aroer, which is by the valley of Arnon, and half the hill country of Gilead. The cities thereof I gave to the Reubenites and to the Gadites. Reuben was the first son we read last week, and Gad was another tribe. They saw the land of the Jordan, and they didn't want to go over. They wanted to stay there because the pasture had looked so good for their cattle. And the rest of Gilead and all Bashan, the king of Og, I gave to the half tribe of Manasseh, which is the son of Joseph, and all the regions of Argob, all that Bashan is called the land of Rephaim. Yair, the son of Manasseh, took all the region of Argob to the border of the Geshurim and the Makati, and called them, even Bashan, after his own name, Havot Yair, unto this day. And I gave Gilead to Machir, and to Reuben and to Gad I gave from Gilead to the valley of Arnon, the middle of the valley for a border, right to the river Yabok, which is the border of the children of Mon, and the Arava, which is like the desert also, and Jordan being the border thereof, the Kinneret, which is the Galilee, to the sea of the Arava, here the Salt Sea, which is the Dead Sea, to the slopes of Pisgah, to the east. So all that huge piece of land. And I commanded you at that time, saying, the Lord your God has given you this land to possess. You shall pass over armed before your brethren, the children of Israel, all the men of valor. But you and your wives, your wives and your little ones and your cattle, and I know you have a lot of cattle, they shall stay in your cities which I have given you, until the Lord give rest to your brothers as to you. And they also shall possess the land which the Lord your God gave to you beyond the Jordan. Then shall you return every man to his possession which I have given you. And I commanded Joshua at that time, saying, your eyes have seen all that the Lord your God has done to these 2 kings. So shall the Lord do to all the kingdoms wherever you go. You shall not fear them, for the Lord your God, it's he who is fighting for you. So here the land of Reuben and the Gadites, they stayed on this side of the Jordan. They didn't go into the land, but they had to wait. They had to go. They left their families, their kids, their cattle, all there. The people who would take care of the flocks, but they went in to fight. And it was only then that they could come and take possession of the land on this side of the Jordan. So we see from these readings that Moses is repeating. I sometimes I think back and I have wished that my grandparents had sat us down as children and said, because my great grandparents came from Ukraine, and they had so many stories they could have shared with us, so many things that they had learned in their life that they could have talked to us about. They may not have been religious or, read the Torah, but it's almost like they had a code of ethics that they lived by. And if only they had taken the time to sit down and talk to us the way we needed to sit down and talk to our children, maybe we wouldn't be so distant from our God. Maybe all these things wouldn't be happening. Maybe it would have saved me in my life from making so many of the mistakes that I made. And that's why when we read the Torah, we can learn from what our people did then and not to repeat it now. Because sadly enough, we are repeating the mistakes now. We are the intermarriage is so great amongst our people. How many people say, I'm not interested in being a Jew. Let them choose somebody else. I'm not interested in the Bible and the Torah. It's a religious book. I don't have time for that. I'm too busy making money. We have so much to learn from this book. And, but it's like, I think in the same way that Abram's eyes were opened because his parents were idol worshippers and God spoke to him. It takes something that God does to us that just opens our hearts, opens our eyes, so that we can see when we're reading, so we have a little more wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. And that's why it's so important for us to read this book. And we pray that our children will come back to it, come back to the simple commandments that God says are not far from us. They're not so far that we have to go up to the heavens or we have to go over the sea. It's right here.
I love those passages that say it's not hard, because when I was taught before, it was, one of the teachings was that it's too hard. We can't keep the commandments. It's not, all that stuff. And really, every day we have a chance to keep them. It's not hard. It's a matter of, if somebody gives you too much change at a store, are we going to give them? Are we going to just be happy and keep it? I mean, that's just little trivial things. Or are we going to decide that, no, we're going to be honest and tell them, and also not get them in trouble when they have to count their cash at the end of the day. So, I mean, there's so many little ways of treating somebody on the bus with respect, giving the seat to an older person, all these things, and then on and on until all our transactions. It's not hard. It's very down to earth. Also, as I've said before, I always wondered, like when I saw, without really knowing it or reading it extensively, but I knew enough to know about the Torah. And when it said, wipe out all the women and children and the men, the women, and I was so horrified, like, how ruthless is this? But the only way I could understand it is to, some of the things they were doing were sacrificing their kids. Now, if that's the evil that was in their hearts, sacrificing people, that's hideous. And then other things that they were doing. So God knows the hearts of everyone. And so when you see something like wipe out everybody like that, it's because God says, that's not the way we're to live. And we have to start again. Anyway, but it's yeah.
And not only that, like I look at, how the young people today, how they speak to the elderly, how to speak to us. I would never have dreamed of speaking to my parents the way my children speak to me. Or I see my grandchildren speaking to my children, their mother in a way. Oi, God forbid. We've lost so much of proper values, and that's what the Torah is about.
Well, people
Learning
think about
principles.
the idea of like talking a certain way, respecting your elders, and people have said to me, and you read it, well, you have to earn my respect. I mean, that's not. It's more than that.
Well,
There's
because it
something.
doesn't say, the fifth commandment doesn't say respect your mother and father. It says honor your father and your mother, that your days may be long upon this earth. Respect and honor are two different things.
Well, yeah, honor, but even what people interpret as honor, realizing they've given you life and not talking back to them, etc. They think of that as, why should I care about what I say to them? Look how they've treated me. That attitude, without understanding what it means generally to be gracious in a special way to the elders, and it's about basic graciousness. And when you lose one thing, you lose a lot of things. You start to not have any let's say basic rules for how to run your life. I mean, in a moral compass, let's put it that way.
So, Jerry or Iris, do you have anything you want to add?
Did we?
What, Jer?
Oh, did we sing that song "Go Down, Moses"?
Well, wait, I think Iris wanted to say something. Iris, I thought you were.
No.
Okay, sorry.
Does it make sense, Iris, what we're saying?
Some of it.
What doesn't? What do you disagree with?
I can't buy all the stuff that's written in Deuteronomy there. I can't buy it all.
Like what? Can you give me an example?
First of all, I can't keep track of the people.
We don't need to. It's not it doesn't matter. Yeah, little by little. I mean, remember, I've been reading it for 32 years. So when you get to know a family for 32 years, you remember their names.
Yeah. True.
Yeah, so it's a little different. We don't have to keep track. That's why I bring up who they are. If you're still here with me in 32 years, you remember their name.
Yeah.
Their names. But it's always to step back and take a look at the principle of it, not necessarily trying to understand it from their times, because those times are past. But there's always a moral, something to draw from a story. And that's what we have to see. What God is saying is, I have been with you. I will always be with you. Whether you believe that or not, I don't know. I know from my experiences, if I look at my life, I can pinpoint exactly when I know God was with me. I know when I failed. I know when I turned away, when I was disobedient. As a matter of fact, when I read the 10 Commandments the first time in the Bible, I said, oh my God, I broke every one of these. Every single one. But what I read in the Torah was how merciful God is to us. That even after all the things that I did, He makes a way to come back. To say to Him, you know what? I don't want to do that anymore. Help me. Help me to change. And then I begin to do things differently, because it's more than it's a spiritual journey. It isn't only a physical one. We are connected to God at a different wavelength. It's something that cannot be described when you know that you know that you know that God exists. And nobody can give that to you. So what we're reading here is we're saying, okay, God is with us always. We're still here as a nation. There is not one other nation of all these names that we read in the scriptures. They're not there anymore. They don't exist. And yet Israel is here. The language that the Torah was given to us is still here. It's being spoken in Israel. What other of these ancient languages are still here, being spoken today? Doesn't exist. That shows me that he's real, and that he wants to work not only in the life of our people as a whole, but in each of our lives, which to me is absolutely phenomenal. Jerry says I keep looking younger, and I believe that's why, because I have such a strong faith and a trust in this God. And I'm hoping that when harder times come, I'll be able to draw on that. Because I believe that we're heading in a direction, if we're looking at the world now, it's becoming more and more frightening to me. When I look at the trans generation, the young children not knowing they can choose between being a boy or a girl, the things that are being taught to our children, the absolute, the plagues that are hitting this planet, because we are turning against our God. He's real. He's as real now as he was to Moses. And if we don't start waking up, I don't know what's going to happen. Well, I do know, because it says it in the prophecies. But that's why I want to do this. That's why I do it. And hopefully if one person will get it, I'll be happy.
Okay, I'm going.
Good night. It's perfect
Have a
timing.
good week.
You too,
Have a good-
Iris.
See you next week.
Yes,
Good
take
night,
care of
guys.
yourself. Good night.
Yay.
Too bad her name is not Irene, you know.
Iris, good
night.
night. Iris, good night.
Irene, good night. If she listens to this, she'll hear the song. Go ahead. Good night, Irene.
Good night, Iris. We'll see you in our dreams. I doubt that she'll listen to the whole thing again because she was here. I don't know what's happened.
Last night I got married. Me and my wife settled down.
Do you remember
You
the
don't
whole?
know the words? Pardon?
I used to have the words. I don't remember it. Anyway, Jared, what do you think about the whole thing?
Pardon? Well, it was harder to follow this year. This year, this chapter is like, you know, it's like what is it, documentary, so it's a little bit harder, I guess, you know.
Yeah, well, because we can't relate. But some of the things in some of the towns still exist. Mount Sair is still there.
No, but I do relate. I did like that. He says you're going to take this land and leave that land alone. You know that. You know, then not everything is just one thing. Everyone is individual. You know, you treat everyone individual, not just one thing for all. You know, so that I found that interesting.
And I liked about the justice. Don't accept a bribe. Don't let those with money blind your eyes to true justice. He talked about that. That's really important.
That brings up another philosophical, ethical question for Miriam, but I don't think we're going to approach that here. I'll just bring it up. Don't have to continue with this. It's just a little different.
Should
So
we?
to ask Miriam a question.
Do you want me to close? Do you want us to close, and then we'll?
No, but for what I don't understand what you're saying
No,
about.
if you don't want it recorded, then we need to close. Because I like.
I don't care if you record.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. What were you?
But you don't have, but you could take it off. You could shorten the recording.
Yeah, but I like to end with the Yivarechecha.
Okay, whenever you say.
But
What time is it? Oh,
continue with what you were saying about Miriam.
it's just bringing up. I like to bring up thought-provoking questions, if you like.
Okay.
And this is up Miriam's alley too, you know.
You go on.
Miriam.
Yes, sir.
This is the point, because there's no such thing exactly always like black and white. Maybe there is, but we don't live black and white exactly. I think you mentioned that, Peggy, the last time. I'm not talking about anybody, people in general, or anybody in particular, but people are always talking about the people with money,
Okay.
right? And the point I'm trying to make is you have a lot of people. I'm not talking about anybody in particular. You have a lot of people. They made a lot of money, and they work themselves to the bone. They worked very, 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 very hard. And
Okay.
they were able to get a little bit of money, and then people say, "Well, look at all the money he has." But he worked for it. Other people, well, they didn't want to work, and then they just say, "Well, why doesn't he share with us the money?" There's certain people don't want to work, and if people get money, they say, "Well, look at that guy, he has all that money." But they didn't see that guy worked 16 hours a day to make that money. Take yourself, Peggy. You're a perfect example of someone who puts in a tremendous amount of hours working. So you've made, thank God, you made a little life for yourself. And people, not you, people could be jealous of people who make a little life. This is what she has, you have this going for you, but they don't want to put in the effort.
Exactly.
So I just brought this up because it came up like people who have money. So yes, a lot of people inherited the money. They didn't do anything for it. A lot of people wanted on a lot of, but there's a lot of good people who had a lot of money. You had these the good people we had people here in Montreal, and they gave a lot of money to the communities. You had people in Israel, and they gave a lot of money to these people, and yet people are envious of them anyhow, But so the thing is, I don't like it. Similar to here, I don't like to make a blanket statement that all the people who have this just some people worked hard for it, and some people did a lot of good with it.
Exactly. But if you look at our ancestors like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they were all very wealthy. They were wealthy men, and they shared what they had, and they worked very hard for what they had. But God blessed them because it says they had a heart for God, and He blessed them. And you'll see that very often. People really with a heart for God who work hard, nothing's handed to them on a silver plate. They have to work.
It's not about the money,
It's not
because there
about
are
the money.
people. It's how you lead your life, whether you have tons of money or not. But there are those who work hard and have.
But
No, but
is
let
it.
me just let me just finish quickly.
Yeah,
It's
but
there are people
I'm
who
gonna
have
let you finish. I promise you.
tons
But
of
just
money.
the phraseology that
What?
people have tons of money. The phraseology, that people have tons of money. Well, how did they get it?
No,
And what
no,
did they
but
do
my
for it?
point is this. There are people with tons of money who have worked hard for it. And there are people who don't have tons of money who work hard too, in the coal mines, even doing double shifts at a pharmacy. They don't have tons. It's not about whether you have tons of money or not. It's how you lead your life. And there are very giving people who have tons of money, and they're very greedy people who have tons of money, and they're very the same with those who don't have money. It's what you do with it. And the people who criticize it there are many, like in the movie Oliver, Peggy, showing those rich, wealthy people eating, stuffing their faces with chicken legs and all sorts of food, while the people, in the orphanage barely had a crumb of bread. So there's greediness. It's about greed. It's not about wealth or not. Nobody's just criticizing. If people were really not greedy, you wouldn't have this crazy division of life, the extremely rich and the extremely poor. So it's about greed. If people were taken care of, I don't think they would begrudge. People begrudge selfish people, greedy people, I think. I don't think it's just about being rich. There are people who are rich who are always giving. Like you said, Jerry, to the Jewish community, they're giving all sorts of charity money.
Oh, yeah, this Jewish guy the Israeli guy. I'm not going to mention names. He gave a lot of money now, 17 to 20 million dollars to build up the Herzl School. I mean, he's a billionaire, so it's not that much money for him necessarily, but still he did it. You had certain centers on which were built up by wealthy people. So the thing is, just to the beginning and end. I know I brought it to mind, just not to make a blanket statement about the rich or the poor. It's just that's all. That's not to make a blanket statement.
Yeah, I agree. It's
Which
not
blanket
all.
statement are you talking about? Because the one that we read in the Torah was about not to pay off judges, that the rich would pay off judges for justice, while the poor who couldn't pay off the justice, a blind eye was turned toward them. That's what I remember reading in this portion. What are you referring to?
No, I wasn't referring. I just brought it up that it just came up. The thing was like people who have this or people who have that. Certain people they worked for it and they have it, and other people. So you have greed and you have envy. It's the opposite sides of the same coin. I've just coined that word now. It's opposite sides, but so nothing is that simple. That's all. Nothing is that simple.
Well, I think again,
Right, Miriam?
it boils down to greed, Jerry. It's not all rich are corrupt or this and that. It's about greed. There are greedy people. There are giving people. Remember the widow's mite with the Yeshua. There's the
we have a visitor. Good.
There's Terry.
We have a visitor.
It's about the state of the heart. Our heart. If our heart is willing to. Hi, Terry.
Hi, Terry.
Hi. Yeah, we were all waiting for you, Terry. You're on mute.
We can't hear you. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I should have been home. It would have been better.
Yeah.
Okay. Or she was
We
tired.
started at 8 and we were just about finishing.
Okay, thank you. All right.
We came
I
up.
just got home.
We came on early. We decided to come early because Iris wants to do it earlier, which is fine.
Yes,
But I missed.
We're just starting the second shift now. You're just in time.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, we're talking about Deuteronomy.
And
We've started.
I just told Peggy how energetic and youthful she looks. So she's okay she's going to take the second shift. She's going to start it off,
Well, I'm feeling better now that I've recovered from the fall, so I'm starting to feel better. But but this book, I'll send you the recording, Terry.
Thank you. I'll listen.
Yeah, the Book of Deuteronomy, the first 4 books, as I mentioned before, are written by Moses, but in a way that the Creator was dictating to him, so he wrote them down. This last book, and there are many sages who are not sure who wrote it, because it continues on after Moses is dead. So we don't know who wrote the book, but a lot of it we know was written by Moses, remembering back the things that God told him. And he's trying to tell our people, you, Terry, you, Jerry, you, Miriam, me, Peggy, what to do and what we shouldn't do. Because based on the experiences that he had with the people in the desert for 40 years. And that we shouldn't repeat some of those mistakes and that we should learn from them. Wouldn't it be nice if we can learn from the mistakes of others?
Oh, yes.
Wouldn't we save ourselves a lot of tsuras? If only I had listened. When we're young, we're so stupid, but we think we know everything. When we're older, we realize we don't know anything, but it's too late because we've made all the mistakes.
Oh, did we ever? I know.
Yeah, I was telling someone I would have loved to start out as a grandmother, not as a mother. I would have not made the same mistakes that I made with my children. But We have the wonderful thing about the Torah is that we learned that God is with us. He's always been with us. He will always be with us. And he's what my rabbi calls a God of beginning again. So when we fail, when we make a mistake, when we turn against one of his commandments, for whatever reason we break a commandment, we have the opportunity to do what's called Teshuva.
Yeah. He
Teshuva,
helps us to understand.
yeah, Teshuva doesn't mean becoming religious. Teshuva means coming back to God, saying, you know what? I really messed up. Please forgive me. Help me make it right. I make it right with my neighbor, with whoever I hurt, and I make it right with you. And that's the beauty of this, the Torah and the Torah portions. And we don't have to understand absolutely everything in it. There's different levels that we can go. We can study deeply and see what all the sages say and what this one said and what that one means and the gematria. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in moral values, in principles that help me to personally grow, to live a healthy, happy, to choose life. That's the difference, to not live in fear. Over how many times in this portion, I don't know if you remember, Jerry, Miriam, how many times God said to us, I've given the land to you, I'm doing this for you, don't be afraid. Go ahead. It's like he gives us roles in our life. He gives us purpose. And he says, go ahead. Don't be afraid. I am with you. And that's what we need to learn how to do. It's a process because we are natural cowards. And especially
A very excuse me, okay, you can a very important thing just came to mind, and as it follows from before. So he gives us the land, he gives us this, he gives us that, but he doesn't want us to sit on our camels and just ride into the land. He wants us. He's giving you the land, but he wants you to go and get it, go and take it. He wants you to do something. It's that commandment, as Peggy will tell you, shall rest on the seventh day, but for 6 days you should work. 6 days you shall do labor. And if you want to do 7 days Sabbath, well, that's not the plan.
Exactly. He wants us, and you know why? You know why he gave us a day of rest?
We needed it.
Yeah, and not only that, he's showing us it's a sign. Shabbat is a sign for us that we're no longer slaves. We were slaves in Egypt for over 200 years. And he took us out and he said, I am the God who brought you out of the land of Egypt. You're to have no other gods. And by keeping this one day, we are acknowledging the sign that he gave us, the seventh day, that we're going to work hard for 6 days. But the seventh day is one that he's given us just for him. And he's saying, you know what? I love you and I'm giving you this day off. And one day a week, you're going to feel like you've been on vacation. And it's for our health.
And
And to add to it, if it's correct, I'll stand by your correction, Peggy, if necessary. And remember the Sabbath day, which means I would put into remember me also. Take at least you're going to work. Remember the Sabbath day, which the Lord he gave you, and you should remember it was Him. Remember the holy day, so to and reflect back on it. I think you can expound on that, Peggy, if you like.
Did you want to say something, Miriam?
I just wanted to say, some people I think misunderstand and say, well, my Shabbat day is Monday. It's not just about literally physical resting. Here's my take on it. I like the sort of mystical element. And when I say mystical, I mean that we don't know everything. We don't understand everything, but in a beautiful way, like the whole act of creation, because when he said, he created and then on the seventh day he rested because of, it's partly mixed up in the whole idea of who God is, that he created this planet So it's not just a day off, so to speak. It's like Jerry, you said, it's about reflecting. It tells us that this is God who created the earth, but it's not, we can't just arbitrarily say, well, let's have Monday as a Shabbat. It's
Well, that's
so
the problem with our other religions who have changed the day. Christianity changed it to Sunday. And he says it's a sign, and like what you said, it's a chok, one of the chukim. It's a mystery. We don't understand it. But how do we know that there are only 7 days in a week? Why aren't there 8 days or 10 days? He told Moses there would be 7 days. It's a sign that he exists.
yeah, that's what I mean by mystical.
Exactly. It's mystical. He really.
Miriam, I like to expand. Peggy, keep your thought. Don't let me. Anyhow, I'm participating. That's what I'm doing. I'm not trying to interrupt. I'm trying to participate. Miriam, my dear Miriam, humanly, my dear, today you have to be careful how people talk, But anyhow, we understand each other. So, my dear Miriam,
Yes,
and we all love you humanly. We have to mention that today. People can take you in the right way. I'm only kidding you, but anyhow. But it's Miriam. You're right. I take off on a little word. My mind just takes off on a tangent here, and I agree with you. The Sabbath is not a day off. There is no day. There are no days off.
no.
The Lord, if He stopped creating, we wouldn't exist. There are no days off. But it is a day for our souls. It is a day to reflect. It is not. There's no such thing as a day off. It's every day. I want to tell you a little story. May I?
Yes, just before you tell the story, the Kohanim worked harder on Shabbat than they did the rest of the week. They had to offer all the animals, so it wasn't a day off for them. It was a day of acknowledging. It was the day of coming before the presence of God.
Also,
Right,
Peggy, you had said about salary. It's not about not working, but when I, for example, go to a restaurant, I'm supporting everyone going to work on the Shabbat, Jews and Gentiles. So it's not about me stopping work. I'm going to cook, I'm going to do things like that. Some people don't do anything. They even break up their toilet paper before Saturday comes because it's work to break up toilet paper. But that's legalistic. It's losing the spirit of the whole thing. It's not the letter of the law, it's the spirit of the law. So, it's yet, like you say, Peggy, it's not about not doing work.
Yeah, because the word in the prayer that we read every Shabbat is melachto. Melachto comes from the word melach, which means salt. And salt was a way that they would pay their workers because there was no refrigeration then. So melach has to do where we get the word salary. We are not to collect a salary, work. If you're a doctor or you're a nurse, you can work on that day if you have to. There's no prohibition. But what God is saying, don't collect a salary for it. The money that you earn on that day, give it to God. You could do that because there are people who just have to. We can't judge them. But, there's much more to it. It's one of the two middle commandments, which are chukim. They do not have a logical explanation. They are mystical. We don't always understand. Yes, Jerry, now go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Did I say something? Okay, so Miriam, and you let me know if I go on sometimes. Iris was saying I didn't talk enough, but now I thought, and I was saving it, I guess. But anyhow, so Miriam, it's not what you say. I had a good friend of mine, he's a religious guy. It's how you say it. I'm going to tell you a quick little story. It's part of a joke, but I'll only tell you 2 lines of the joke. There's Jewish guys. It's a lot of lines. I'm sure you may have heard. This Jewish guy before the judge, and he's speaking Yiddish, and he has a translator. And the judge says, "I'm going to give you 30 days in jail." So the Jewish guy says, "Ich hab Zeit to sit in jail." So the interpreter says, "What do you say? He says, I have time to sit in jail. I have time to sit in jail. So the judge said, if you have time to sit in jail, you can sit for a year. But anyhow, there's a whole, you've heard all that, eh?
Exactly.
Those little stories are good. But I want to tell you another little quick one. But that goes on. I want to learn that story again. It's somewhere. There's this year guy comes shul on Saturday, and he's all dressed very nice. I mean, you probably heard all these stories. He's very nice, and he speaks to the rabbi. He's friendly with the rabbi. I'm speaking fast just because to save time, So he's speaking fast. He's nicely dressed. One day he's meeting with the rabbi, and he says, Rabbi, I have a confession to make, He says, when I come here on Saturday, I dress up nice, this and this. Well, that's not really me. He says, during the week, I get into my overalls and this, and I'm working, I'm hard, and I'm business and this and that. So that's me. And the rabbi said, Moshe, when you come here on Saturday, maybe that's really you. The other one is, you've heard that one, eh, Peggy? I see.
I didn't. No, I never did.
No? No, because I shortened it up a little bit. So, but you got the whole thing. Even though I made it shorter. So maybe the real you is the one that comes on Saturday, and not the other times when you're going out working hard.
Exactly.
Miriam, you're fantastic, Miriam. You know why?
Why?
At least you stimulate me to think sometimes.
Good. I stimulate myself sometimes. Sometimes I forget. Another thought quickly on the Shabbat, that it's another way of when obedience is a joy, when God says obey me, if it becomes a law, then you're not really walking with God. You're doing it because it says to do it. But when Shabbat is not given exactly, it doesn't say cut the toilet paper, it doesn't say do this, do that, but it says a day of rest because I created the world and rested on the seventh day, which to me is saying it's because I'm the creator. That's what it's saying. So it's also, if you're really, it makes you, I don't know how to explain it. It clarifies what obedience means. Like sometimes, I want to go, like even when I was with you, Peggy, and I want to buy something and it's not Shabbos, it's still Shabbos, and I get, I want to buy something. It starts to get legalistic. But if I start to say, what is Shabbos? It's a chance to walk with God in obedience, because other people don't know about the fact that there's a creator. I know there's a creator, and today is a day to show my obedience. It really, for me, it's almost a new thing. I'm almost just thinking of it now.
Wow.
This is a day that separates me, not that other days you don't obey, but today is like when you go to honor, when you honor somebody.
You have other religions that say this is the day the Lord has made, to rejoice on it.
This is the day.
Comes from the Judaism. Zeh Hayom. This is
that Judaism? So the other thing is, Miriam, you're stimulating me again. I don't know. You have to watch it. I'm only kidding you, Miriam.
Yes.
This is like the Lord has many names. French ones too. We can have a French one too, eh, Terry? Yeah, the Lord has many names. Yet he has sometimes 32 names, 72 names, and I think he could have infinite names. And each one of his attributes, you can say, even is another name. And the reason I'm mentioning that is, you mentioned the Shabbat was a day of rest that he stopped, that he didn't necessarily create on that day. But that's one reason. There's infinite reasons to take the Shabbat, and they're all good.
Yeah.
You're like a woman, a lady. You're not limited with this. There's especially ladies who have multi
tasking.
Yeah, I didn't want to use the word tasking.
Multifaceted.
Multifaceted. Yeah, multifacets or multi abilities. Put it that way.
When I say the seventh, the Shabbat is because he created the earth, I don't mean it like, oh, today he took a shovel and this and he created the earth. I mean the whole mystery of the existence. the fact that he created the earth is like, it sounds, what does that mean? He said, today I'm going to put cement together and there's the earth. No, it's the whole being of God. It's about his being. It's not about, I'm just putting it into words, but the fact that there's a being that created us and the earth, that's what I mean. It's not just one thing, it's everything. It embodies everything. The fact that he created the earth embodies everything. There's a creator.
It's your phraseology, Miriam. It's your
Listen,
phraseology.
Monsieur Gerard.
It's your wait, who's that? Miriam, it's your phraseology that brings things like when I say, these couple of words. You can make we can talk for. You can say something when I say. You can ask someone to say something. We can talk 10 people. We can talk all night. Continue. Continue when I say. It's the way you go into something.
Yeah.
There must be a song on that, Peggy. When I say.
Well, I was thinking of the other one. This is the day. Ze hayom asa Adonai, ason Adonai, nagila, nagila, venismechavo, venismechavo. Ze hayom asa Adonai, nagila, venismechavo. Ze hayom asa Adonai.
Oh, Miriam, move your body while they're singing. Move your body. You too, Terry.
The day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice. Let us rejoice and be glad in it, and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. C'est le jour que
Dieu créé.
Dieu a créé.
Oui. C'est le jour. Alors, dans my nose, frère Jacques or Claire de la Lune.
No,
Oh.
no.
How do you see, what's clear? How does it go already?
C'est le jour que Dieu a créé.
No, my Claire de Lune. Yeah.
No,
Au clair de la Lune, how's it go? Okay. Au clair de la Lune, mon ami Pierrot.
Oh, yeah.
mon ami Pierrot, prête-moi ta plume.
Plume pour écrire un mot.
La chandelle est morte.
Ma chandail est morte. Terry, a little louder, Terry.
Pour l'amour de Dieu.
Oh, that's it. See, we got the Lord in here too. There you go.
Of course we do.
Pour l'amour
De Dieu.
de Dieu.
Exactement.
Oh, c'est bon. Nous parlons un petit peu en français aussi, hein, nous parlons, les hommes, notre ami, nous parlons au moins 70 langues.
Wow, c'est beau.
Nous parlons toutes les langues. Oui, nous parlons de chaque pays. On parle des langues différentes, Did you say something, Terry?
Terry, do you have anything to add for tonight?
Did you know that song, Tonight? Tonight.
I'll see my love tonight. Tonight will be no more.
Morning sun.
Tonight.
I was another group. I should mention this, Peggy. And I was doing a little bit of like a play, and I followed that movie, An Affair to Remember. Do any of you remember that movie?
A love affair is a wondrous thing that echoes in the early spring. La da da dee, la dee da la da dee da la da dee da.
That's a beautiful. It was made at least 3-4 times, that movie. 1949, Charles Boyer and Irene Dunn.
Yeah.
1957, Cary Grant and Deborah Kerr,
Deborah
and later Card Care, whatever. Yeah. So it's a really romantic film. It's
Oh, I love that movie. Oh my goodness. I was so glad I had a happy ending. I would have died if it didn't. Oh, yeah, I remember it when I went to New York to the Empire State Building. I remembered that movie. Did you ever see it, Miriam?
An affair to remember.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I want to see it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see if I can. Huh?
Miriam, you have to look at that movie, Miriam.
Okay, I'm gonna mark it down, and I can
Yeah.
probably rent it on my VC on my.
Yeah.
No,
Olympic
you'll be able to get an older copy, I think.
Yeah, maybe you can.
No, I can watch it maybe on my info box.
Yeah, maybe. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen,
Okay.
if
Oh,
we,
just yeah, okay. Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. You want me to do that thing, Peggy? Whenever you say.
yes.
Yes.
Do you need
You just get.
do you need
Pardon?
words? Do you need
No, I don't.
no? Okay.
I-
Let me open
My internet
everybody can
cocks off once in a while. I don't need the words myself.
okay.
By the way, I made all your celery, Peggy.
Oh good, okay. Good.
So I'm not sure if my internet sometimes conks out for a minute. Anyhow, I'll start.
Yes, go
Well,
ahead.
okay, anyhow, just a quick backgrounder. This is the way it's in what's in Nassau, eh? In the Bible, this is the word, and the Lord said to
Number-
away the
Aaronic benediction. The Aaronic
Pardon?
benediction.
which
It's the Aaronic benediction. The
which
prayer
benediction?
Aaronic from Aaron.
Oh, Aaronic. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. It's also in Nassau in the Bible, eh? That's where he said it, eh? The
Yeah,
Aaronic.
I could look it up and see.
Okay, fine. Okay, we'll say it from here. Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmarecha. Yo'er Adonai panav elecha v'chunecha. Yisor Adonai panav elecha v'yosem lecha shalom. V'samu et shemi al b'nei Yisrael va'ani avorchem.
Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance to you and give you shalom. So shall they put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. So may we be blessed. Have a good week. Have the rest of the week. A Shabbat Shalom. It was wonderful seeing everybody. And God willing, we'll see you next week for the second portion of the Book of Devarim. Good night,
Wow.
everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye.